I just remind everybody, as usual, that the proceedings this evening are going to be recorded for webcasting. And so can I remind all members that if they wish to speak, they need to indicate and be called by the chair so that they use their microphone and speak through the chair. Can I also remind everybody, please, to turn off their mobile phones, because even if they're on silent or vibrate, they'll still interfere with the sound system. And can I remind all of those in the public gallery that by sitting in the chamber, you consent to your image being recorded and used for broadcasting purposes. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. We'll go on to item number 1, apologies for absence. Thank you. And item number 2, declarations of interest. There are none, so we go on now to item number 3. This is an open session presentation by General Dynamics to receive a presentation from Mr. Paul Clement and Dale Stolzenberg of General Dynamics, and I'll ask Alan Owen for a brief introduction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. In addition to Paul and Dave tonight from General Dynamics, we also have the members of the High Level Economic Growth Partnership, which we set up in October 2015. The reason for setting up a High Level initial partnership was to help coordinate the employment, skills and regeneration activities that was specifically required to fulfil the business needs in Merthyr. So tonight, the key partners from that group we set up here, there's Mr. Paul Gray, the Chief Executive of Tydfil Training. There's Mr. John O'Shea, the Principal of Merthyr College, and John will also be the conduit between not only General Dynamics as a large inward investor, but other inward investments and any requirements from HE and FE throughout South East Wales. There's Carol Pugh, Job Centre Plus, Andrea Jones and Tony Daly from Careers Wales, and Petra Kennedy representing Merthyr Tydfil Institute for the Blind. Can I also explain that due to the commercial sensitivity of the work and production that General Dynamics are bringing to Merthyr, we won't be taking any questions tonight, but I believe if there's time, the members can make comment. Thanks very much.
I'm happy to, yeah, okay. Yeah, can you hear me? That's good. Okay, so as I say, thank you for giving me this opportunity to take you through what we plan to be doing in Merthyr. I have a short brief that's going to just take you through who I am, what we intend to be doing, what opportunities arise from that, employment opportunities, etc., and also to cover our community engagement plans. So as I say, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction. I'll give you an overview of the company and the corporation, the AJAX program, which is the program that I'm involved in and lead. The Merthyr Tydfil facility itself, as you will have heard, we've bought the old Lindy plant, and I'll take you through what we plan to do there. A brief outline of the employment opportunities and the types and numbers of people we intend to take on and exactly when, and then the community engagement piece. So that you are aware, we have signed an NDA with the Merthyr Council, as it's noted at the bottom of that slide there, which enables me to share information in terms of things that are secure and classified and also commercially sensitive. So we can handle questions, written questions through the Council, and Chris here will help us with that as and when is required. So just a little bit about me, just to introduce myself. So I'm Programme Director, and I'm responsible for AJAX production, the fielding, so that's the delivery to the customer, the Army, and the in-service support of the AJAX vehicles. I'm also responsible for the Merthyr Tydfil facility and the development of that facility and putting that in place and hiring the people. There's a big team at GD that help me do that, the manufacturing managers, the supply chain managers, etc. I've been with General Dynamics in Wales since 2002 and helped to lead the Bowman program before moving on to Ajax, and actually been a director with the company since 2006. I trained as an electronics engineer, became a software engineer, but my training was actually through an apprenticeship, so I have quite strong feelings about apprenticeships and the value of those. I didn't go through the university route, so I'm quite an advocate about that whole training process and the benefits of apprenticeships, and happily talk about that for hours. I moved from engineering into project management around 1995 and have been in that ever since. We live in Abergavenny. My wife cooks for Kutch Cafe, and I have a couple of sons. One's an accountant and one's a video games artist, so don't know where he gets that from, but certainly not me. In terms of the corporation then, it is a big global corporation. There's 90,000 employees worldwide. Revenues in 2014 were up near $31 billion. And we are one of the top 5 global defence contractors, serving both government and commercial customers. We have 4 major sectors within General Dynamics Corporation. So we have Gulfstream and the commercial jets and jet aviation, who maintain the aircraft. We have the marine systems, so Bath Iron Works, Electric Boat and NASCO, so they're producing submarines, they're producing tankers, various different ships for the Navy. We have Mission Systems, who deal with communication systems, IT, and Mission Systems are responsible for part of the business that are in Wales, over in Oakdale, and I'll explain a little more about that shortly. And then there's Combat Systems, and that's the part of the business that I fit under. It includes European Land Systems, who are in Spain, Land Systems in the UK, over in Oakdale, and also Ordnance and Tactical Systems, producing ammunition. In the UK, we have General Dynamics UK, and many of you will have heard about us. We're based over in Oakdale. We've been actually in the UK for more than 50 years. When you look to the history of Hastings, which is part of GD UK, we have over 750 employees, and we turn over about 250 million a year. We have autonomy, we are fully accountable in terms of P&L, and we have a board. And we focus in 3 main areas in particular: armoured fighting vehicles, my program, the Ajax program being the lead program there; avionics systems, so we're on programs such as Typhoon, and Hastings largely focus on avionics electronics; and then tactical communications, and that's really over the past years has been the Bowman systems that come out of Oakdale, big program there, 2.1 billion, which has been successfully delivered and fielded. And now the Ministry of Defence are developing the next capability with us. So we're dotted around the UK, South Wales, Oakdale, and now Merthyr. We also have offices in Telford and Leamington, Hastings for the avionics side, and then smaller operations in Chippenham and Bicester. Land Systems, which is my part of the business, really a big part of the business. We have about 6,600 employees across the world. We're in 14 locations worldwide. They've fielded well in excess of 50,000 platforms. So for me, although we're a startup in the UK, and you could consider us a startup as far as manufacturing armoured vehicles is concerned, we have a reach back into Canada and the US in terms of expertise to help guide us as we start up the production operation here in Merthyr. So there's a wealth of knowledge that we can tap into from a variety of vehicle types, not just tracked vehicles such as Abrams, but also wheeled vehicles such as the LAV types. So that really puts us in a powerful position. We have particular expertise over in Oakdale around electronic architectures and IT systems that go into these vehicles, and that's really building on the expertise we developed in Bowman. So I'll give you a bit more of an overview about Ajax, which is the program. Some of you may have formerly known that program as Scout. It was renamed last year as part of the Defence Exhibition launch, and we revealed the Ajax vehicle, which is the turreted vehicle. So we're contracted to the UK MOD for the supply of 589 Ajax vehicles of various types. And that contract includes training equipment, it includes all the in-service support to the Army. So we're fielding and delivering a capability at the end of the day. It's not just a vehicle, it has to be supported and maintained. The troops have to be trained. They need to get the best out of this platform that they possibly can. They need to really maximise it. We are the prime contractor. We have more than 160 suppliers in the UK, about 10% in Wales. And this contract runs for about 14, 15 years through to the end of 2024 plus warranties. And the total value on contract with us is £4.5 billion. There are 7 prototypes, and we're going through the prototype test program right now. They're undergoing trials and will do through to 2018. So we do have a program that runs in parallel, a design and test program which runs in parallel with the start of the production program. In terms of a family of vehicles then, we're producing 6 types of vehicles out of the Merthyr facility. The Ajax vehicle, the one on the top left corner, is the lead vehicle. We're producing 245 of those. The turreted vehicles, it's a reconnaissance tank. It's replacing the vehicle known as Scimitar that's currently in service. A very capable vehicle, has a 40mm cannon. It's largely, its purpose is reconnaissance, but also more recently, as you will have heard about the formation of strike brigades, will have a strike role. It has lots of sensors, sights, radio communication systems, a lot of electronics within the vehicle. So a very capable vehicle. We then have the Ares, which is a troop carrier, and really you could consider this also as the common base platform. And one of the principles on the program was that we were trying to keep a certain element of the vehicles all common across the vehicles to ensure that we kept the through-life cost of the platform under control and cost effective. So the running gear, the suspension, the tracks, the engine, the transmissions, probably the lower third of the hull is all common across the variants, which makes it very cost effective for us and cost effective for the MOD as they maintain these platforms in service. We have the Athena, which is a command and control variant, so full of computers and radio equipment for the commanders to plan the engagements and deal with the data that Ajax gathers. We have 2 support vehicles in Apollo and Atlas. Apollo has a 4.8-ton crane on it, is capable of lifting the power packs from the other Ajax variants, including its own. And Atlas has a winch on it, so it can tow or pull up to 50 tons. Again, very capable, and it helps recover the full family of vehicles within the Ajax program. And then we have Argus, which is an engineering recce vehicle, so it allows the engineers to do their planning before the engineering regiments arrive, so planning for bridge laying, etc. So there's a high level of commonality, which you'd expect. So there's a common electronic architecture within all of those vehicles. So that's common computing, that's common power distribution, as well as, I say, the common automotives of the engine, the gearbox, the tracks, etc. And Ajax is the name of the program, but it is also the name of the lead vehicle, the turreted vehicle on this program. A little confusing, but Ajax is the title of the full program. So in terms of vehicle assembly and delivery, we are actually starting production in Spain. It started. We're starting to cut metal now. And that starts with fabricating the hull. So all the heavy welding is done in Spain, in Trubia. And the Spanish will assemble 100 vehicles for us. All of these vehicles will be delivered to our plant in Merthyr, which will start towards the end of this year, so that we can then prepare them for delivery to the MOD. And the delivery to the MOD will take place at the facility at Merthyr Tydfil in Q2 2017. The first vehicle will be handed over. And the MOD staff, both civilians and civil servants and British Army staff, will be based at Merthyr. So they on site we're utilising one of the standalone buildings there for their facility to accept the vehicles from us. So we'll literally come off the end of the line, deliver the vehicle into their building, they do what they need to do with the vehicle, and then the army come to site and collect the vehicle from the site. So you will see guys in green. They'll be barracked, I think largely up at Brecon, but the civil servants that will also be working out of here will be looking for accommodation locally as part of that setup. And there's about 25 or so of those guys that will be based on site. We start assembly of the 489 vehicles in Q4 2017. So that starts in Merthyr. So as you can see, there's an overlap here. Roundabout vehicle 67 from Spain we start to assemble in the UK, and that's quite deliberate. You wouldn't want a sort of knife edge cut over from Spain into the UK. We have to go through a learning curve, and so for a while we'll be in parallel. Vehicle assembly will be completed by Q1 2020 in Spain, so they will not continue to assemble vehicles. They will continue to fabricate the hulls, and they will continue to deliver some of the automotives to us, the engines, the power packs, and transmissions, etc. But as a standalone assemblies that we will assemble into the vehicle on the Merthyr production line. And then we continue through to the end of 2024 here in Wales, delivering the 489 vehicles. And we have a rate of output of about 8 a month on average, and it takes us about a year to get that whole vehicle developed through from starting to fabricate through to final delivery. So it's quite a long process, but you stagger it and you get that sort of rate of output of about 8 a month. We also have an in-service support contract which we signed last July, which runs in parallel with production. So every vehicle we deliver will be delivered with support in place, and that support covers field service and maintenance, spares and help desk, vehicle overhaul and design services. So as I say, every vehicle will be supported by GDUK staff in service, and the centre of operations will be Merthyr. So part of the recruitment challenge is to bring on those engineers, those field service and maintenance guys to support the platform, as well as those that will answer the phone and help the army understand how to deal with the problem that they might have. Any vehicles that need to be recovered back to us for deep overhaul will come back to Merthyr, and we will be repairing those vehicles at the facility in Merthyr. The British Army, though, won't be left on their own. We will be training them. So we will have our staff alongside them. We will train them to be able to maintain the vehicles themselves, so that when they go on deployment they have a choice. They can take us with them, or we can stay behind and they can maintain the platforms themselves. We are, though, under contract. We have to support them on deployment if they request us to do so. So as we hire people, we've got to be prepared to to hire people who would be prepared to go on to support deployments abroad. So a little overview on the facility itself. We're investing over £30 million into this facility. It's a major development for us, absolutely significant. If I look at the plan view of the site, I don't know whether you guys are familiar with the Lindy location, but the big pink blob in the middle there is the assembly hall and warehouse where all the operations will take place. To the back of the property, just beneath the hill, we'll be putting a test track in place, and we have planning permission to do that. It's a 500-metre test track. We will not be running the vehicles at full speed. It's limited speed, but it's to prove that the vehicle is safe. In addition to the test track that we have, there will be a static test area of slopes and wading tanks and crane and winch pull testing facilities. The MOD are on site, as you can see. I'm pointing out the building there for that. And then the rest of the facility really is as is, so we won't change the car parking arrangements. They will still stay the same. What we do have to do is make sure the site is secure and safe. We have to enhance the security on site. We have to refurbish the offices, etc., and that's all work that's going on at the moment. So in terms of timelines, and just to understand the construction work, if you like, that we'll be doing on site, this year is all about getting the offices prepared. We have to be able to accommodate 150 people in those offices. We have to prepare the MOD acceptance facility. We have to make sure it's safe and secure, so there'll be new fencing and CCTV systems and so on. We also have to put all the IT infrastructure in for everyone that's moving in. In 17, we really focus on preparing the warehouse, the assembly areas, the assembly lines. We start the track build, as well as continuing on the security work on site. And really the aim is to have the assembly hall ready for population by the summer, by around about the start of Q3, so that we can get the warehouse full of stock, we can get the people onto the lines fully trained, ready to start assembly later in the year. So we will, as it stands, we'll complete construction of the track in Q1 2018, and the final elements of the assembly hall, largely surrounding the armour assembly, which is an activity we have to do as well. Excuse me. If I overlay on top of that what that means in terms of vehicle delivery, then, as I say, in 16 we have to be ready to receive our first Spanish assembled vehicle, which arrives later on this year, around about sort of December time frame. We have to do some work to that vehicle to make sure it's presentable to the MOD, and therefore that first vehicle will be delivered to the MOD in early Q2. We start our production or our assembly activity in early Q4, and we deliver that very first vehicle built out of Merthyr in Q4 2018. So we're allowing ourselves a decent running period to get through the learning curve, to make sure everyone is trained, and to sort of deal with those snags that you'd expect to get in the first run of vehicles. In terms of employment, then, you will have seen the headlines about 250 jobs to be created. They will be created over the next 4 years, so it's not an instant overnight thing. We will, to pick out some numbers, be hiring about 85 assembly line fitters from the summer of 17 onwards. You can see why we need to get the facility up to scratch first of all. There's 35 or so warehouse and supply chain staff. And then there's a mix of other disciplines. There's field service engineers, there's production engineers, there's supervisors, there's administrative staff. There is a very broad range, so I have to improve our commercial and finance capability as much as I have to make sure there's production guys on the line itself. There'll be new QA staff, new inspectors. It's a broad range of skills, and we'll be working with the colleges and the training establishments to really prepare for that. We will start some recruitment though this year. We need to, because that first vehicle arrives at the end of the year, and so we will be recruiting an initial team to handle that first vehicle. It won't be a very large team, it's only one vehicle that's arriving, but it's a basic team that helps to receive the vehicle and prepare it and then present it to the customer. But it's the start of the build-up. And wherever possible, I obviously like to employ local people, local skilled people. That's essential, very keen on that. And as I say, then we will work with the local further education establishments and training establishments, and that will be coordinated through Merthyr Council, and Chris is going to help me do that through the Economic Growth Partnership that you've established. We will establish a local apprenticeship scheme, and you've heard how keen I am on that at the beginning. We will do it. It'll start really, I think, in 2019. It will probably make sense to you that we really need to get skilled staff into the line so that we've got people there to train the apprentices when they come on. It would be crazy to try and get apprentices on the line from day one. It would be chaos. So that's the rough sort of timescale in terms of apprenticeships. We already do them in Oakdale on engineering apprenticeships, and we already do them in Hastings too on both engineering and production apprenticeships. So we know how to set these schemes up, but we'll be definitely working with you guys in terms of how to design the apprenticeship appropriate to what we need to do in the future. In terms of communities, we do have a very proud record of community engagement, certainly over in Oakdale and over in Hastings, and I want to extend it to this area. We regularly support local charities through various different activities. There's lots of people who run for charity around within GD to help charities. We donate raffle prizes, as it says, and on-site charity events. We have sponsored sporting teams and other local teams have brought other local teams to our facilities. We do a lot with local schools. We've had work experience weeks where we've brought schools in to work alongside our teams, and we promote the science and technology curriculums. We regularly engage with the local British Army units, and what I really do want to do, if there are cadet forces locally, it would be great to connect them up to the Army guys that will be based on site. That's something very easy to do, doesn't cost anything, and the Army guys are quite happy to work with the cadet forces to help them understand what the Army do for us. So that would be great in terms of engagement too. So we're keen to build on our track record. I'm open to ideas. Chris has offered to really collate those ideas. We do get a lot all the way through, and we will have to select ideas that are appropriate, but we'll consider anything. We do get a lot come through, and some folk will be disappointed, but we are prepared to support where we can. So that's really it, to give you an overview of what we're doing. As Alan says, it's easier for us to deal with questions in writing, particularly because of the sensitive nature of the programme, but happy to hear comments as necessary, and I hope that was useful as an overview of what we're doing.
Have we any comments? Leader?
Yeah, I'm happy to keep my comments. I'm happy to keep my comments until the end. I can sum up if that's okay.
Councillor Richard Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make these comments without prejudice to anything that the leader will want to say at the end, but I mean, clearly as leader of the opposition, we are delighted to welcome the General Dynamics to the local authority. As an ex-teacher in my past life as design and technology, I'm more than happy to hear your comments about apprenticeships and links, and to see Mr. O'Shea here from the college. Very exciting times, I would think, moving ahead, and wonderful for us. I know we were told that there would be no questions, but forgive me one. Can we have a drive at one point in the future, please? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Leader?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. In terms of drive, can I say I will be pulling rank over Richard on this particular one? First of all, I do need to declare an interest in all this, because you're probably not aware of it, Paul. I'm the Welsh Local Government Association spokesperson for Armed Forces. So I've got a great interest in all this sort of stuff for all the right reasons, I think. First of all, can I thank you for your presentation. This is without doubt a fantastic opportunity for the County Borough in terms of high quality job opportunities. As the Leader of the Opposition has said, this really is very, very good news indeed. And on a personal level, I always get very excited when an employer talks in dollars rather than sterling. It really does demonstrate an international organisation, if you like, which clearly the connections are there. It's great to see our training partners here this evening, who will no doubt, I have no doubt about it at all, rise to the challenge of producing the people and the skills needed, that you're going to require in terms of potential employees. And I recently met with Mr. John O'Shea from the fantastic new college across the road there, and discussed, amongst other things, employer-led courses. Which is clearly, a step up and step forward for everybody. Excuse me. What you will find within the County Borough, that you will have a committed, dedicated and flexible workforce. And I'm sure you'll realise very, very soon that you've made the right decision in coming here to the County Borough of Merthyr Tydfil. And on behalf of the entire council, we wish you every success in the future. And I'd love to come down to have a drive, really would. Please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and can I say thank you for your presentation as well. As is the norm with the council, you're invited to stay the rest of the meeting, but if you wish to leave, you can do so now. Thank you. Thank you. We'll go on to the next item. It's item number 4, minutes of meeting Wednesday, 6th of January 2016 of full council.
Yes, move, Mr. Mayor. Second, Mr. Mayor.
Can we vote, please?
Oh.
And that's carried. Item number 5, minutes of meeting Monday 11th of January 2016 of Rights Away Committee.
I move minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Any second?
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can we vote, please? And that's carried. Item number 6, minutes of meeting Tuesday 12th of January 2016 of Scrutiny Social Services.
Move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can we vote, please?
Councillor Ray Thomas, please, and Councillor Linda Matthews. Thank you. That's it.
And that's passed. Item number 7, minutes of meeting Wednesday 13th January 2016 of Licensing Committee.
I move the minutes of the Licensing Committee, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can we put that to the vote, please? And that is carried. Item number 8, minutes of meeting Wednesday 13th of January 2016 of Cabinet.
Move, Mr. Mayor. Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can we vote, please? And that's been carried. We go on to committee reports. Item number 9, secondment of a full-time trades union branch secretary, Unison, to consider a report of the chief executive, and I believe it's Councillor Phil Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I refer members to page 20 of the agenda pack and the introduction and background section, which clearly sets out that under the law, Trade Unions and Labour Relations Act 1992, all employers that recognise unions are legally obliged to consult with them, and as it says in 3.1, we do under the National Joint Council Green Book. As part of that, we have to provide we have to provide the trade union reps with reasonable paid time during working hours to be able to undertake their duties, and then 3.4, you can see that what is reasonable time, and as far as we're concerned, and most local authorities, is that it is actually reasonable to create a full-time branch secretary post given the circumstances we find ourselves in currently, and that's obviously to do with the transformation change and the already announced possibility of us having to lose up to 200 jobs. So it's going to be a lot of work, and the next section, section 4, actually sort of sets out the parameters. The situation is we've got 3 main trades unions, that's Unite, GMB and Unison, but the 2 with the most members are GMB and Unison, and on head count alone, Unison seems to have the majority, although GMB themselves have a large number of members as well, so I'm not putting down GMB in any shape or form. Following discussions with the 2 local representatives of the trades unions, the GMB and Unison, the feeling was that currently the secretary for GMB is able to cope with the current workload, although there is a proviso that, you know, in the future, should the workload become too much, there will be obviously a case being made back to us. But at this point in time, they're saying they can deal with the current workload. Unison, however, are finding that the secretary who works for Unison is spending more and more time with the trade unions works, and as a consequence his day job is suffering, and obviously we need to ensure that his work is continued within the professional standards that are expected of his particular post. The situation, Mr Mayor, is that we've got to provide support for the trades unions, but we don't actually tell the trades unions who they should put in as the secretary. I think if we were, we'd probably say anybody paid on £15,000 a year, that's the guy you or girl you want. That is not the circumstances. Clearly in law, the trades unions and the trade union members have the right to appoint their own secretary, and that secretary is someone, and if we decide then we would require, as we do now, to help us through the process of transformation, then so be it. That is the circumstances we're in. We have no option there but to support that particular individual. So talking to Unison, clearly the secretary is not on £15,000 a year, and as you can see he's actually on a little bit more than that when grossed up as well, and by grossing it up obviously it's the employer's superannuation and national insurance etc. costs. But there is a little bit of chink of light in that over a number of years now the Unison have actually been supporting an administrative post within the organisation and giving us effectively the value of that grade 3 post, which is approximately £10,295 per annum. Unison have agreed that if we actually make the secretary the full-time union convener for the union itself, that they will actually then take over the payment for the half full-time admin. They look after that. So we are going to have to find approximately £40,000 to move ahead with the recommendation. As I say, the recommendation is on page 19 that a full-time trades union branch secretary secondment initially for 2 years be approved to start from the 20th of January. We are where we are. We've got a huge agenda ahead of us. We do need this post. It is a very, very difficult period for everyone involved, and I have no hesitation in moving the motion on page 19.
Mr Mayor, can I second the Deputy Leader, but reserve my comments for later on? Thank you.
Have we any questions? Councillor Richard Thomas.
Sorry, I'm trying to vote. I can't really tell the difference. Thanking the Deputy Leader for a full and frank explanation. Can I ask, therefore, if the person this post, if you like, is intended for relinquishes it, then the cost to the taxpayers of this authority will reduce if somebody else takes on the role? My view is that £40,000 a year is quite a hefty sum at this time when taxpayers are already being asked to fund all sorts of things.
Before Lisa comes in, and Lisa can answer it properly, as I said during my explanation, we have no say over who the person is. So if we do have somebody coming in, if there's an election, every year actually with the trades unions, and if they decide to throw the individual out and have somebody else in at £15,000 per year, that's what we're in for in year 2. But given the individual and given the amount of work that the individual is doing, I can't see that happening, but I can't speak for the trade union. Please?
That answers my question. It's perfectly clear now, and I apologise for mishearing the first time.
Any further questions? Sorry, Councillor Minton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I just seek clarification in relation to 5.3? Will we now seek to replace, if this goes through tonight, will because of the significant risks for social services, social region, will we now seek to replace that role as and from tomorrow? Because it's 28th, I think this is to go from. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, once it's agreed tonight, we'll start the recruitment process tomorrow.
Any further questions? Comments? Leader.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, Mr Mayor, just to reiterate a few points that Councillor Williams had said. It's in everybody's interest that we get a full-time post committed as soon as we possibly can. We've got very difficult times ahead, and it has been increasingly difficult for Unison to engage in a meaningful way because of the officers trying to split his time between trade union activities, 50% and 50% to his substantive role. And to be fair, and I'm sure he will admit it, he was doing justice neither to his full-time role nor to the process, despite his very best efforts in doing that. So I fully support the recommendation, and I have seconded them. We will move forward. As Phil has said, the role has to be backfilled because of the risks to the social services post itself, and we have no control over any individual who is democratically elected by their trade union. And the one point that I wanted to make tonight as well, Mr. Mayor, if I can, that I've been making a few inquiries recently because it's been mooted round by the management and the officers of the authority that we're roughly a 50-50 split between trade unionist members and non-trade union members. But having made a few inquiries and having spoken to colleagues in Unison, it is quite clear that there are far more trade union members working within Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council than was previously expected. We've only been able to estimate or actually configure through the check-off system, but there are significant numbers who pay by direct debit, and therefore we weren't able to confirm that. But it's because Unison have furnished us with that particular information that we've been able to get a far more accurate figure. So I'll leave it at that, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the Deputy Leader.
Yes, well, I'll put this to the vote then. And that's been carried. We now go to item number 10, Injury Allowances Policy, to consider a report of the Chief Executive, and again is Councillor Phil Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and with reference to the previous item, can I thank every council member in this room for the unanimous support for that. Right, the next, I'm conscious we've got to be in church at 7:15, so I'm going to fly through from now on. So the Injury Allowances Policy...
Oh, Wetherspoons, that's church.
I did say church, Leader, yes, yes. We'll Wetherspoons afterwards, if anybody fancies a pint. This is being recorded, so do you mind?
Whoops.
Page 23, the Injury Allowances Policy is summarised in paragraphs 1.1 and 1.2. The recommendation on paragraph 2 is that the Injury Allowances Policy be approved with immediate effect. Subject to comments and questions, I move.
Who's seconding?
Yes, second, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? Can we vote, please? Thank you, and that's been passed. We go to item 11, Procurement Strategy, Procurement Rules and Invoice... I'll start again. And e-invoice policy. I know these teeth aren't working. To consider a report of the Corporate Director, Place and Transformation. Councillor Phil Williams. I can manage Phil Williams, I've already done that.
And that's before we go to Wetherspoons, Mr. Mayor. Again, the report is summarised on page 31. There are three elements. There's a strategy, there's the procurement rules and the e-invoice policy. Recommendations on page 31, 2.1 to 2.3. I move.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions apart from buy-in stuff, to change the words to buy-in stuff? Any questions? Any comments? I'll put it to the vote. And that's been carried. We go to item 12, Discretionary Housing Payment Scheme, to consider a report of Corporate Director, Place and Transformation. Again, Councillor Phil Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one is to update the existing DHP policy. And as it says in the introduction and background on page 63, that as a consequence of changes through the central government's decisions in respect of benefits and what have you, the allocation from the Department for Work and Pensions has actually gone up from £13,000 5 years ago to £138,145. It is a cash-limited budget, as it says in paragraph 3.2, but the objectives of the new policy over the page on page 64 set out in paragraph 3.4, which are fourfold. 1, to give applicants a fair and consistent decision. 2, to maximise the use of the DHP budget. 3, to give greater priority to help those who are making efforts to help themselves. And 4, to support those who have done all they can to manage the situation they're in. There are some exceptions, as set out in paragraph 3.7 and appendix 2, but the recommendation is that the updated discretionary housing payments policy outlined in the report be approved. Subject to questions and comments, I move.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Any comments? I'll put it to the vote, please. And that's been carried. Item number 13. Adoption of Council Tax Reduction Scheme for the financial year 2016-17. To consider a report of the Corporate Director, Place and Transformation, Councillor Phil Williams.
Do we get an appearance fee for this, or what? As it says on page 77, this is an annual requirement that we actually adopt the scheme. So the recommendation on 2.1 is that the Council Tax Reduction Scheme to commence in April 2016 for the 2016-17 financial year be re-adopted. Subject to questions and comments, I move.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? Councillor Richard Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Under financial implications, I'm not asking people to have a crystal ball, but there's a sentence there which says this does not cover the full costs, and it is possible with any future changes to regulations. Have we any idea about how those costs might balance in future years to the authority?
Not exactly sure, but what I can basically say is that we have factored in the full cost within our plans and going forward, so it's there. And at the present time, we've got a case load of about 7,000, and that's what the figures in going forward are actually set on.
Any further questions? Any comments? Let's put it to the vote, Councillor, please. And that's been carried. We now go to an information report, item 14. Frost Afran Intermediate Grant Scheme to receive a report of the Corporate Director, Place and Transformation. I believe it's Councillor Barry. Just for noting. Can I ask somebody to move section 100, please?
Yes, move, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Can we vote on that, please? And that's carried. We go to the reopen session and other items, item 16, to deal with other urgent business or correspondence. I believe the leader wants to make a statement.
I've only just had new glasses as well. There we are. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, members will now be aware of the outcome of the Estin's final monitoring visit, and that particular report was published, as members will be aware, on Monday morning. The outcome of the visit, which for all intents and purposes was in fact a full-blown inspection of the Council's lay skip services and can only be described as very good news indeed for all young people and learners in Merthyr Tydfil County Borough. Today I've received a letter from Welsh Government formally giving notice that we are no longer in special measures. Very good news indeed. Mr Mayor, I don't intend going through the inspection results line by line because I'm sure all councillors will have familiarised themselves with the Estin report, and I'm advised by the Chief Executive that Estin have been invited to present this report at the next full council meeting, so maybe members' comments could be kept for that particular time. The purpose of this particular communication is purely to thank everyone concerned for their Herculean efforts in turning our education services from failing in 2012 to the fastest improving by 2016 across the whole of Wales. Some achievement in a very, very short space of time, I'm sure everyone will agree. Our first ambition to be in the top 10 performing councils is now within reach, and I'm sure we'll be able to do that when the next year's academic results are published. Mr Mayor, that is thanks to many departments and members of council staff, all councillors serving in the current administration, bar none. Everybody's played their part in this, and I need to acknowledge that first and foremost. Schools, not just the head teachers or the teachers, but all staff connected to schools, whether they are teaching or non-teaching, caretakers, admin assistants, so on and so forth. Parents, the learners themselves who have absolutely stepped up to the mark, and the community of Merthyr Tydfil as a whole. And I don't think I've left anybody out now because I've said Merthyr Tydfil as a whole, and I really do mean that. Mr Mayor, I thank you all for your considerable contribution in this process in making it possible for all our young people to have the opportunity to fulfil their full potential and to do the very best they can. And I think that's something we all should be very proud of. Thank you.
So we now go on to item number 17, to receive communications from His Worship the Mayor. I only have one. I'd like to look forward to seeing as many of you as possible at the Holocaust service tonight. And thank you. Good night.